I played a song I wrote to my girlfriend but didn't tell her I made it so I could get her actual opinion on it, and she called it a complete dumpster fire, but I fed the fire by revealing it was mine, and now she can never trust me again. So let me start off by saying that I, 28M, know this was slightly manipulative. I deceived her my omission, and it speaks volumes about my communication skills. I understand that, and I actually feel really guilty about it. But here's what happened. My girlfriend, 28F, is very critical about music. I make music on my own, but I never felt like she ever gave me real criticism of my music, despite me pleading with her to give me something blunt and real. She always said it was great, and never had anything to say about it. But when she would critique other music, she would get extremely detailed with it, critiquing music down to the very last detail. I really admire her thoughts on music, and all I really wanted was for her to do that for my music as well. But she would always just say it was great without saying much else, and I never believed her due to the stark differences in how she would frame these opinions. So one day, I had her listen to some music, without telling her it was mine. I just said, "Hey, check out this track," without saying it was mine. She went in. She said it was the work of someone who had no idea what they were doing. The composition was all over the place, and it didn't flow together. Sections of the song were much too long, there was a rise without a climax, and she said it was all around just a boring song. When I told her it was my song, she got really, extremely upset. She said I was a jerk for lying to her, I manipulated her, and that she can never trust me again. She took a bunch of things and stayed at her parents' house last night. I feel terrible, but at the same time, I also feel a bit vindicated. Also, I feel like she's overreacting. I don't really know where to go from here, because I don't want to lie to her about how I feel about what I did, feel sort of bad, but then again not really. Did I do the right thing? Commenter 1. Regardless of the specifics, she very clearly told you I don't want to do this thing, and you tricked her into doing the thing she clearly told you she didn't want to do. If you want to get it all mixed up in feelings around music criticism, that's your business, but the plain facts are as above. And people are allowed to feel that's it not cool to A, not have their own decisions about what they don't want to do be respected and B, be tricked by someone they trusted. If the vindication about her opinion is worth doing A and B to her, then I guess it was worth it and you'll just need to live with the fallout from it. Commenter 2. Dude, she didn't want to critique you. She didn't want to be put in a position of telling you what she thought of your music. She made that very clear, and you seem to have known that perfectly well, and you also clearly knew that really, she doesn't like your music. Relationships do call for a certain amount of tactful tiptoeing around non-material hard truths, and you should have respected that she wanted to be blandly kind to you and gotten your critique elsewhere. You basically asked her, does my bum look fat in this? Without telling her it was your bum. Not cool. Commenter 3. Stop mixing pleasure with business. If she doesn't want to critique your music, you shouldn't have manipulated her to do so. Of course she's going to think anything you create is good. She cares about you, and so perhaps she wanted to avoid the role of a music critic and just be your supportive girlfriend, because no matter how crappy your music is, she understands music changes and develops. She loves you, and sometimes harsh criticism from spouses ruins a relationship and can hurt the creative processes. Very jerk and petty move on your end. Update. I didn't get a whole lot of well-wishing words from me on my last post. Most people felt that I was manipulative, took away her agency of choice by deceiving her, and that I deserved to have my relationship fall apart. Well, you guys were right. You win. She hadn't officially broken up with me, but I could tell the relationship had been in its final stages. Long story short, the day after I wrote my post, i.e. the day I responded to most of the comments, a few hours later, I called her, told her to stay at her mom's place, that we were fundamentally incompatible, and that this obviously wasn't going to work out. I wanted to provide some background to our relationship, to clarify what I believe to be a few misunderstandings in the responses to my previous post. I had been asking her for a long time to provide me with honest critique to my music. I've approached her before about why her answers are so vague and placate why when it comes to my music. I told her I can obviously see the contrast between that, and how she critiques all music, whether she likes it or not. She outright denied that she was just placating me, and that there's nothing to worry about, and all my music is great, and that I'm being crazy about it. The last time her and I talked about this, I was not subtle in my communication. I directly told her that I would value her critiques and take it to heart, whether the critique was positive or negative. I just really wanted her opinion, particularly considering that she's been a primary inspiration to some of my best work. I had made it clear that I really just didn't want to be placated, because music is so important to me, and the same goes for her, and I'm not in it to get people to suck me off and tell me how great I am. I want to be the best possible musician I can be. And I also feel incredibly disrespected by being placated, like I'm some child who can't take criticism. I've never given anyone, let alone her, reason to believe that I would need placation. Beyond this, she still denied it all, but I could tell it was pretty much BS, and it was driving me crazy. So months and months later, I've gotten nowhere with communicating with her, and I still have the nagging suspicion, to the point where I'm not even asking her opinion anymore, because it just makes me mad. A few days ago, it just popped in my mind like it was no big deal, to play her one of my, pretty Pretty May emo, but still had pretty okay responses from the general public songs. Basically just throwaway instrumental I did when I was bored, and kinda dug it at the time. And I didn't tell her it was me. We finished listening, and I asked her what she thought of that tune. She goes off on it, basically hating it. See my previous post. I said, okay, thanks so much, I'm so glad I could finally get it out of you, I agree with a lot of what you said. She goes, wait, that's your song? I said, yeah, it's an old one. And she gets mad and says, what the fudge, OP. And we get into an argument about it. She thinks I went out of my way to manipulate her, like it was sociopathic and premeditated. I'm telling her, it's not even that big of a deal, why were you lying to me in the first place? And she said, because I just don't like your music. Are you happy? And we continue to fight. It escalated to the point where we started swearing, so she said, you know what? I don't need this, and walked out. She's been there ever since. Fast forward to the breakup conversation. She said she felt guilty about not liking my music for 2 reasons. One, because she thinks it was messed up that she simply didn't like my art, and she was ashamed of that. The other reason is that, a lot of the time, she feels like she doesn't know what she's talking about, and didn't want to rip my music apart like she does with most songs, because she could totally be wrong, and then she'd be a jerk. I was really upset by this. I feel like I called her out on her lying months ago, and she kept lying to me, instead of just saying that. I tried so hard to tell her months ago that it's okay if she doesn't like it, but she just clammed up, thinking I was going to fly off the handle and end our relationship over it. After months and months of telling her that I didn't want to be placated, she kept trying to placate me, and wouldn't communicate the real reasons. How am I supposed to expect her to be an adult and communicate what she really feels, instead of lying to avert imagined conflict when we have relationship issues in the future? Music is such a huge and important piece of our lives together, and this situation probably wouldn't have gotten to where it is if it weren't. It may seem silly to those of you on the outside that what appears to be just a stupid, petty argument lead to the complete breakdown of a relationship. And now I'm just left confused, and lonely. She was also my best friend in the entire world, and there's a void inside of me, and a voice telling me I'm making a huge mistake. And I'm confused, and pulled in multiple directions. Thanks for taking the time read this. Commenter. You played a stupid game and won a stupid prize. Stop playing mind games with the important people in your life. Commenter 2. You still don't get it.